welcome to the FDSTL online work tools workshop. We hope you're all doing well and staying safe. Welcome back those who attended our workshop 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks has already gone by since that's happened. This workshop format is going to be a little different. Really, it's more informational. Not as much, we're not going to be breaking out into discussion groups. It is, however, your chance to ask questions about hosting online sessions. And so using these online tools. And we want this to be interactive. So please don't hesitate to ask questions during the presentations. Just to mention that what we're going to be talking about is talking about Zoom first, and then two online tools that you can use, Kahoot and Poll Everywhere. And we know there's a lot of tools out there that you can use. We just chose these because they're fairly popular, they're fairly easy to use. At least what I found with these tools is that once you learn one, it's a lot easier to learn another one. So the idea is to at least get yourself familiar with one, play around with it, and then if you find another one on the internet or whatever that you want to use, once you get into it and you say, oh yeah, okay, you get over that hump of the fear of doing this thing. So we're presenting Kahoot and Poll Everywhere here. So let's see. Actually, before we get started, I'd like to introduce Koichi Sayano, who wanted to say a few words. He's the president of our FDSTL.
Hey, yeah, thank you, Carl. And again, from FDSTL, thank you for attending today's workshop. And thank you to the Education Committee for putting on these workshops. As you know, distance learning is kind of upon us for the upcoming Dharma School term. So these types of workshops will be very useful for a lot of our teachers to enable us to continue reaching out to our students, even though we're not present physically. So with that, I'd like to turn that back to Carl.
Okay, thank you, Koichi. Thanks for breaking away from your endowment meeting. I know that was so interesting, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is, Bishop Harada is also in the endowment meeting. I think he was going to come in later, but he's been very supportive of our initiative to implement and use, these distance learning tools.
Yeah, he's going to join us later. He wants to say a few words at the end. So, okay, so actually, without let's roll right along. Our first presenter is Brent Izutsu. He's from the Mountain View Buddhist Temple, and he's going to provide a tutorial on Zoom. So Brent, take it away.
All right, thanks, Carl. So I probably should introduce myself. I didn't really last time. So I co-teach the high school Dharma School class at Mountain View Buddhist Temple. I am also the superintendent for Dharma School. My day job, I am the Senior Director for Digital Media Creation and Production at Stanford University in the Office of the Vice Provost for Technology and Learning. So my team does work with faculty and instructors to put their courses online, especially now as we're sheltering in place, and we just announced that fall quarter will be completely online. So without further ado, here is Zoom. So just as a high level, here are some suggested practices. So as a host, you definitely want to test all of your software, your connections, be able to troubleshoot that so that during the meeting, you're not scrambling if something's not working, or you have a pretty good idea of what's not working and you can work around that. One note, for your connection is if you don't have a great wireless connection, definitely try to plug your computer directly into your router with an Ethernet cable. That will improve your bandwidth, and especially if you're sharing video, you should have a hardwired connection. Second, if you're using a laptop, connect your laptop to a wall outlet, plug it in. A lot of laptops will adjust your graphic card and your processors if you're on batteries, and that could have an adverse effect on your computer's performance in a Zoom meeting or playing back videos and things like that. When possible, start your Zoom meeting a few minutes early, just to reconfirm that things are working. You can practice as much as possible, but when it comes to the day of, you know, things might not be working as it previously was. So just start things up a little bit early and make sure things are working. When you are in Zoom, set some ground rules, like everyone should be muted if they're not speaking. In your classrooms, you can also set your classroom rules, be respectful of others, and things like that. Raise your hand if you want to speak. So this is applicable both in the work world and in our classrooms. Do not require that everyone enable their cameras. When people enable their cameras, you're basically inviting someone into your home, right? People might not feel comfortable showing their home environment on camera for everyone else to see. So be mindful that not everyone would be comfortable with turning on their camera. But you should model that behavior yourself as a host by turning your camera on. So this next part is a little bit more how you appear on camera. So be aware of your surroundings and how you appear visually. Find a quiet location. Try not to have, you know, your windows open and you can hear your neighbor's lawn mowing or dogs barking in the background. It does come through and it can be distracting. Do not sit directly in front of a window. If you're backlit, you might look like you're in witness protection. So, but if you do have a window, use it to light your side profile. It provides a nice, soft, diffuse light. So you have some nice natural lighting. Also, don't have a bright lamp right in front of you either. You're going to be squinting in front of the camera. But if you have a selfie ring, because those are popular nowadays, you can definitely use those and adjust it to the right brightness. Try to find a room with minimal hard surfaces. If you're in a big echoey room, that can be distracting as well. So a room that has, you know, a soft couch, carpeting would be ideal. If you're messy and you have a lot of clothes on the floor, that actually works in your favor for this setup. And then position your camera slightly above your nose line. It provides a slightly more flattering look than if people are staring up your nostrils or elsewhere. So just be mindful of the camera placement and then be aware of your camera presence. So, you know, people can see what you're doing online. I know, you know, when we've given workshops at Stanford, some faculty might decide to vacuum instead of actually participate, but we can see it. So yeah, be mindful of your behavior on camera. Zoom roles. There are a few roles in Zoom that you should be aware of. The first is the host. So the host has all of the functionality, all the controls. This is the person who can promote participants to be a host themselves and then step down in the role, or promote someone to be a co-host. They can assign participants to breakout rooms, create or edit polls, and end meetings. So none of the other roles can do this. But as a co-host, you do have a bit more functionality than a regular participant. So you can start polls and you can assign some permissions. But you can't start a meeting, and you can only assign co-hosts when you start a meeting.
Excuse me, Brent.
Yeah.
This is Carl. Did you start sharing or something, or did you want to show some slides?
Oh, man. Yeah. Sorry. I have anybody. My slides. Okay, so now you should actually see what I'm seeing. And we will share out the deck. So if you've been furiously taking notes, sorry. You will get this as well. So sorry. And there's the alternative host. So you assign the alternative hosts when you are setting up the meeting. They have the same roles as co-hosts, but the additional functionality that they have is they can start meetings for you. So if you run late, there's someone standing in for you to start that meeting. And then, of course, there's participants. So only participants can answer polls. Anyone with that's a host, co-host, alternative host won't be able to participate in that fashion. So be mindful of when you're assigning people, if you want them to participate in something like a poll, then they should not have a formal role in your meeting. So the Zoom website. For the most part, you shouldn't have to log into the Zoom website for anything other than setting up your meetings. To schedule a new meeting, you would click that button at the top, and then it'll pull up the scheduler. So you can see that you have different controls, date, time, duration, whether it's a recurring meeting, and the frequency of recurrence. You can put in your passwords. So it's not just the Zoom pre-assigned password. You can actually put in your own password. And then it'll automatically assign a numeric password for people who are logging in via phone. And then I usually do enable join before host just in case I'm running late, because chances are I am. But then I also put in the alternative hosts. So I made up emails for my co-teachers because that's fun. Today I'm really gonna cover the Zoom computer client. People are logging in via iPad, via phone. If you're hosting a meeting, you should really consider using the computer client. It has the full functionality. The iPads have the next level of functionality, but I would definitely recommend using your computer. Okay, when you want to start your meeting, you just go back into the website and click start. If you have a formal role as a host or alternative host, you'll want to start it from the website. You can't use the meeting ID and the password. You need to be authenticated so that it will recognize that you have a formal role. And then when you click that, it's gonna pop up the Zoom app if you have it installed. And then let's go into basic controls. So the first thing that you'll want to look at is your microphone controls. Make sure that you have the right microphone inputs selected and the speaker output selected as well. Then for your video, you're going to want to make sure that you have the right camera selected. If you have multiple cameras on your system, you might accidentally put up the wrong camera. So just be mindful of that. So the default view when you're in is the speaker view. So that will put up the main speaker in the big window. But if you're hosting a meeting, you might actually want to see everybody else. So if you mouse over the middle of the window, you'll see a little gallery view icon pop up in the upper right-hand corner on your computer app. You can click that, and then you can see everybody in a grid. So this is helpful to make sure, if people have questions or look confused, you can kind of see that and respond to it in real time. But there are also other ways for participants to let you know if they have questions or input and feedback. Sometimes by default, you don't see the participants view or the chat window. So you want to click on the very bottom. You'll see participants. It'll open up the right-hand side. And then same with chat. So that'll pop up underneath the participants. And yeah, I accidentally clicked forward. And yeah, so you can see that on the right-hand side. And then we're gonna get into the controls that are currently highlighted. You might not see it, but it's yes, no, go slower, go faster. That's additional ways for people to engage with you and your presentation. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but just know that it's up there in the participants window. So chat. One thing to note about chat is if you're recording the meeting, the chat logs get recorded as well, even private chats. So if you are commenting privately to someone and you don't necessarily want that to be captured, be mindful of what you're saying in the private chat, because that does show up in the record logs. But if you're not recording, or if you are, you can chat with everyone or a specific individual. So to select between that, you just click on the little to toggle, and then you can see the different participants. And then you can select an individual participant to privately chat, and then have a conversation that way. All right, screen sharing. So let me go through all the papers. I print it out. Screen sharing, you have full controls as a host to determine how screen sharing works, whether only one participant can share at a time, or if you have multiple participants who can share. And then for more granular screen sharing options, you can click on advanced, and you can also determine who can share, whether it's only you as a host or all participants. And then if you select all participants, then you can determine who can share when someone else is sharing as well. Any questions at this point? I should just pause. And
Brent?
yes.
There's 2 questions in the chat room. Are the chats recorded, private or yeah, to everyone?
Yes, they are. So even if people can't see the chat when in the app, when you're doing the meeting, if the meeting is recorded with the chat logs, it'll show up in the chat logs.
And then the other question that we tried to answer was regarding breakout rooms, which I know you haven't gotten to yet, but they asked if anyone could do that, and we responded that you had to either be the host or the alternate host in order to execute a breakout room.
You need to be the host.
Host, okay. And then one other question was in here regarding polls. The question was they didn't see the poll function, but one response was that regular Zoom accounts, just the basic free, does not have polling functions. But also, I believe you have to be a host, alternate host, or co-host to launch a poll, and only the host can input a poll.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes. Yes. And we'll cover polls and breakout rooms a little bit later.
Brent, can I ask one question?
Yes.
So how do you prevent, from what I can tell, if I go to participants and hit invite, I can invite anybody into this meeting. And I've seen other people do that. How do we secure it? Are you going to cover that later? Because it's a concern to me.
No, I'm not going to cover that later.
Oh.
But so what we've dealt with, well, what we've anticipated, we've never actually had to do it, but we usually have for large events, if that's a concern, we have moderators standing by to either boot someone from the meeting if necessary. I don't necessarily, well, it really depends on your purpose. Sometimes you actually do want people to invite other people to the meeting. And in Dharma school, it might be like, oh, I don't know what the meeting ID is, and someone can just send that along right in the meeting as well. So there are pros to that, but if security is really a concern, you know, you definitely want to enable passwords and waiting rooms, which will be forced in September. So yeah, the things you've been reading about, like Zoom bombers and things like that, where people just pop up in your meeting and are disruptive, that should be much less of a concern once security is enforced across all meetings.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brent, can I ask a question?
Yes.
This is Judy. When you were talking about participants sharing the screen, do
Yes.
they have to, once they want to share, does a message go to the host that they want to share, or can they automatically start sharing?
Yes. If you have it configured so anyone can share, it'll just start sharing. They will get a pop-up saying that someone else is sharing at that time. Do you really want to override? And if they say yes, then that will pop up on screen.
So if you click, you don't want, you do not click that they can share, it's just the host. If someone wants to share, they then get permission from the host?
Then the host will have to enable other people for sharing. It's not granular, so they'll enable sharing for any participant at that point.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Brent, did you mention that when you share the screen, there's an option for the checkbox to allow sound?
Yes, so that's the next slide.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I just paused and I guess I should have waited a couple slides. But yes, that's coming up. Okay, so why don't we move forward, and then I'll figure out a better pause point for the next part to see if people have questions. Okay, so when you are sharing your screen, you can either just share a browser window or a document or a video. As I mentioned before, if you're sharing videos, you really should be hardwired with an Ethernet connection. If at all possible, you should have a local copy of the video on your computer. I would not really suggest playing something off the internet when you're trying to stream as well. So when you are sharing a video, as Koichi mentioned, you will want to click the two boxes on the bottom, which is share computer sound, and then optimize screen share for video clip. When you do that though, everyone disappears, and so you'll feel like you're there all by yourself, but that will give a better user experience for everyone else. And this is what it looks like from your end when you are sharing. So you can see that the window that you are sharing has a green outline. And that's just a nice confirmation that you're sharing the right window for everyone to see. All right, moving on to feedback. So as I mentioned, there are a couple ways that people can kind of give you feedback during the meeting. And that's in the controls that I showed earlier, the yes, no, go slower, go faster. That's in the participant window. Yeah, so you'll be able to see as a host a count of who said yes or no, as well as a visual representation next to their name. But they can also raise their hands as well. The participants will see it in their window. You don't see the raise hand in the host window. But then you can see next to their name who has questions, and then you can pause and address them there. So moving on into a little bit more complex functionality, and this is specifically breakout rooms and polls and something called annotation. So in breakout rooms, as host, you are the person who can create and assign breakout rooms. So the easiest way, if you don't have any specific grouping that you have in mind, is to do it automatically. Then you don't really have to think about who's where and moving people around. You just say how many breakout rooms you want, and it'll put the people in. But if you want a little bit more control, then you will select the manual function. And when you do that, then you'll get a pop-up. You can rename the breakout rooms. And then when you do the assignments, you'll see a list of all the people. And you can select which people are assigned to which rooms. In a large meeting, it's helpful to actually name the people up front. So when people are joining the meeting, having them add whatever breakout room they're supposed to be in their names, so that when you're assigning people, you can just quickly click through and assign them instead of trying to remember or referencing where they're supposed to go. And then from a user perspective, once you start the breakout rooms, they'll get a pop-up asking them to join the breakout room. And then when breakout rooms automatically close, or when you say close the breakout rooms, they'll get a pop-up with a countdown as well. And then everyone's pulled back into the main room when that's done. So annotation. Annotation is actually a great feature for Dharma School because it takes some of the functionality of some of the other tools for interactivity. So if you don't have poll everywhere, for example, you can use the annotation function for people to still interact within Zoom. In the annotation mode, you'll see a little pop-up saying you are viewing someone's screen, and then there's view options next to that. And when you do that, there's the little toolbar, and you can adjust the format, colors, line widths, font, size, and bold or italic. And there's also stamps. I call this out specifically because in this example, for example, you can have people with, different people have different colors and different stamps. So you can say, hey, jot down all of your ideas. And if you want to upvote, quote unquote, upvote an idea or someone's input, then you can use your stamp to kind of endorse that. And so that's a quick and easy way for people to interact with that content. So at this point, why don't we try some annotations? And let me pull that up. Just a moment. All right. So if you pull up your annotation tools, you can, does everyone see their annotation tools? No?
No.
You know, I don't know if it's active because I think on the setting for the meeting, I might have clicked it off.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, you want me to go back and find it?
Yeah.
While you're looking, do you have time for a question or two?
Yes, why don't we take questions?
So if I'm the host and I'm in a breakout room, I've found that I can't admit people. Do I have to be back in the main room to admit late entries, or is there a way to?
Yeah. Yes, you do, as a host, you don't want to necessarily sit in any one breakout room. You'll probably want to have co-hosts taking that role, and you want to assign people to lead those discussions. As a host, you should kind of float around to the different rooms to make sure that people are kind of on target, but you should, if you're anticipating that more people are going to log in, you should be in the main waiting room.
So there is no way to, from a breakout room, admit people as the host.
No.
Okay. And how about when you're forming breakout rooms and people come in, what happens is I have to reform them. Is there some trick to it?
When you say reform them, do you mean reform them completely from the ground up? Because you can actually just push people into, add them to an existing breakout room. You don't need to completely start from the ground up.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Brent, see if it works right now.
Okay. Well, does anyone see their annotation tools? All right. We will figure this one out.
Bitch.
Where would Brent? Where would we find them?
It would be
In view options.
so if you're seeing full screen, my screen, if you mouse over towards the top, it'll say you are viewing Brent Izutsu's screen.
Mm-hmm.
And there should be a little black box next to it. If you
Brent.
click on the black box, there's annotation tools in that.
But I don't,
Should be, yeah.
I don't see
have.
my,
Okay.
Brent, here's another thing, maybe if you don't mind another question. So there are some functions you cannot change during a meeting. You have to do them before. Is this one of those? And which ones are I can change in the meeting and which ones are I have to do it before the meeting? Because that's, I think.
Yeah. So maybe annotation tools has to be enabled before the meeting. Most other tools like screen shares and things like that can be adjusted within the meeting while it's going on.
Mhm.
Um,
You know, the one thing I also learned is that I was changing some settings and I didn't realize when I changed the main setting, it changes the same thing for all the meetings. I thought I was just changing the settings for one meeting. So, because I have the annotate off for our usual meetings and I didn't reset it for, yeah.
yeah.
It
So,
doesn't go, yeah.
yeah. So when you are digging into the website functionality, usually by default, I wouldn't necessarily recommend digging through all the controls because there might be some unintended consequences, but you can either save your settings that you've put in for all the meetings or just a single instance. And that will apply for your recording settings as well as things like annotation.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's pretend we actually did annotation. Let's go on. All right, so polling. Polling, I wouldn't recommend necessarily doing it at scale in Zoom. Actually, for Stanford, we recommend that faculty uses either Poll Everywhere or one of the Google apps for interaction, just because it can get complex depending on the scale of polling you want to do. And if you're doing things ad hoc, like during votes and things like that, you're going to be madly trying to type things in, especially if it's like a revision to a constitution or something like that. You'll want to get all the words completely right for people to vote on. So either, well, in any case, you should have your polls pre-thought, pre-planned. So if you do use polling, you can set it up as a host prior to the meeting, or if things are a little bit more ad hoc, I would say use a different tool. So as I mentioned, only hosts can create polls, and you can go into that specific meeting and create the polls beforehand. when you click on the polling tab, if it's enabled, you can add a question. It'll pop up your browser window, and then you can just start typing in your polls. You can create a set of questions within a specific poll, and either do single choice, multiple choice, and then just start adding more and more questions. And then within Zoom during the meeting, either you can activate polls or you can assign one of your co-hosts or alternative hosts to launch the polls if you're concentrating on other things. So it just depends on the scale of the meeting and the roles that you have assigned. So for participants, they'll basically get a little pop-up that they can then respond to. And then as a host, you can see the answers coming in. So let's try polling.
Carl.
Did that pop up for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And of course, I can't share what people are responding, but I will screenshot it and then share what the current poll looks like. So that's what is coming in. So it looks like some people could use a little bit more help, but it looks like people seem pretty okay with using Zoom, or at least trying it out. So yeah, at this point, before I wrap my section, are there any other questions?
Brent?
Yes.
One thing that we use on this polling, if you can see in the black line area, it tells you how, well, I don't know, does it tell you how many people? It tells you how many people have voted so far.
Yes.
This is what the host or the co-host sees, so we can gauge whether or not it's time to end the poll. For instance, if you are using the poll in a regular meeting for voting purposes, you can see the percent of people that have responded. And then you can end the poll when you get close, or you can remind people that to please respond to the poll so we can close the voting. So we do use this for voting purposes at regular meetings.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brent, maybe you mentioned this. I had to step out for a second, but are these completely anonymous? Because for kids that, can the host see them or not, the responses?
So I set up my polls to be anonymous.
And you tell the kids that in advance that,
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, it's very important to let kids know, especially for things like tools like Poll Everywhere, if you've made it anonymous, or even Google Forms, that it is actually anonymous, because you are absolutely right. Kids will, well, people in general would be reticent to participate if they thought that their names were associated with the responses, and people are a little bit more willing to be share or be more honest if there's some anonymity for the responses.
Okay, Brent, I ended the poll. I can go ahead and share the results.
Okay, thank you.
So about what you had in your screenshot, same percentages. So.
Yeah. All right.
Brent, I had one more question. This is Reverend Shibata, Candace Shibata. Did you say, and I might have missed this, that you can do all the polling questions in advance and then just have that deck ready to go?
Yes. So when you do that, be sure that you're in the right meeting and you have host privileges. What we've seen in the past is, especially at Stanford, professors would assign like their TAs to create all the polls, and then find out that they didn't carry over into the meeting because the co-hosts weren't, or the TAs weren't hosts. If you are running the meeting, then you're fine. you're a host, so you can definitely pre-build all of the polls before the meeting.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And Brent, if I can make a comment, you know, the way I learned Zoom was not through any tutorial or anything, but I just went ahead and set up like 4 other computers or, you know, other devices and just set up my own Zoom meeting and just started playing around with the tools and figure out how to do these things. And so that's one thing that people can do.
Yeah,
you have a lot of devices.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun chatting with myself for all the screenshots. So yeah. Anything else? If not, we can move on to the next tool.
Okay.
Back to you, Carl, I think.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Brent. Okay. So next, we are going to go on to, sorry?
Carl, one more thing. I was asked to, regarding Zoom, the BCA is allowing a $200 grant to each temple. So if a Dharma school is the one that is in need of it and your temple has not yet tapped into that particular resource, you can check with your temple leaders and your reverends to see if they have applied for the $200 grant from the BCA. And if not, all they would have to do is contact Gail Noguchi at the BCA headquarters, and then they will set up that particular grant to your temple. And of course, you'd have to work it out at your own temple to see how to share it. But I will put Gail's email, her BCA email, on the chat if you're interested. This is for Zoom. This is to establish a Zoom account. I'm so sorry. Yeah, to establish a Zoom account.
Okay, we have another question here from Claire Murata from Seattle. Are there other free tools that you would recommend that do the same thing as annotation, Zoom annotations?
Yeah, so actually you can just share out the link to the Google document itself. You can share that screen so everyone can see it, but people can actually engage within the Google document itself. I usually use presentations, or Google Slides, I guess it's called. And so people can add their own text and use the shapes and whatnot. And that works perfectly fine.
And another question here from Kathleen from SACBC. Wouldn't opening another login for host allow you to enter a breakout room with extra login and still see waiting room with host login? Kathleen, you want to unmute yourself and maybe ask a question? I'm not sure.
I was just trying to do that up there's a workaround about being able to go into the breakout rooms but still see the waiting room to let people who are late in.
So yeah, technically there can only be one host in a meeting. So you would want to hold on to that. But if you had a second login that you're not authenticated to, you can assign that login as a co-host, yes.
And can't you, when you break people out, you can break out some of the people, but you can leave some people in the main room as well, right? You can actually use the main room as a breakout room. So as people come in,
right,
you can assign them. So
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. We will move on. So next we have Stacy Uyeda from the Berkeley Buddhist Temple, who's going to be talking to us about Kahoot.
Okay, hey, good morning, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. So my name's Stacy Uyeda. I'm the superintendent at Berkeley Buddhist Temple, and my regular gig, or what I do, is I'm a middle school teacher in the East Bay area. Been that for more than 25 years. So, so this is a very interesting tool that many teachers and your students are very familiar with. It's called Kahoot. And I think that Brent had the challenge of talking about Zoom and introducing Zoom, which is, you know, has such multifunctionality. I would say that one of Kahoot's strengths is just that it's very good at doing this one thing, you know, and it's just kind of really specialized. So this could be something that you enjoy using, or you know, you might not. It's just not as flexible, I would say, as Zoom. It's really good at doing this one thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why Kahoot could be great for you in your Dharma school, and then I'm going to show you how to make a Kahoot, and then I'm hoping, I think we'll have time to actually play a Kahoot. So it is really versatile. Kahoot works on all devices, and it's really easy to make and share a Kahoot game. And one of the things that Kahoot is great at is just, it's very motivational. It's very motivational for all kinds of players. So, you know, you have your very competitive Dharma school students, you know, who just like jump right in, and then you've got students who kind of sit back and maybe are a little more mellow about it, or some that, like, you know, are like answering the wrong question on purpose, but it's kind of still fun for everyone. Kahoot has a lot of built-in motivational messages. So it's kind of tracking everybody and keeping track of how everyone's doing, and will be very encouraging to someone. You know, for instance, if you're getting, if you've gotten 3 answers correct in a row, it will notice that, and it will say, hey, Stacy, good job, you're on a streak, you know, that kind of thing. Another good reason that you might want to use Kahoot is that so many students already know how it works, and they've played Kahoot. It is one of the top 5 education apps that's being used around the world right now during this pandemic. On my screen, you can see that, you know, you can create a Kahoot and host it live, which is what, you know, is synchronous learning, or you can assign a challenge. That's Kahoot's language for, you can basically have them play it on their own and do it asynchronously. Okay. So for the prep work, or kind of what do you need? You need a Kahoot account. As the host, you do need to make an account, and the students you play it with need a device, and they need, you know, an internet or Wi-Fi connection. And then you need the curriculum. You need the material, you need the, you know, the learning materials that you want to reinforce with this gamification. You know, you're making this game out of this learning material. And on the screen, you can see that for free, you can just make a game, play it, host it. You can do everything you want with the basic for free. If you get these other accounts that cost a little bit more, they can open up different kinds of question types, or they allow you to share it with other colleagues or other Dharma school teachers, you know, and kind of a little bit different kinds of functionality. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to have you watch this very short video, it's just a little bit over a minute, about how to create a Kahoot. Okay. Okay. Can everybody in the chat right now, just to make it a little bit more interactive, can you summarize what you think the steps are? How do you create a Kahoot? What are the things you have to do? So again, I'm asking if in the chat you can just like, you know, just what does it seem like the steps are? Is it account, login, questions? You know, what do you need to do? Okay, so someone's saying you got to create an account, right? What else do you have to do? You have to, right, you list the question, you have to get logged in, right? And what did you notice? Great. What did you notice you have to do with the questions? Yes, you have to have answers, exactly. Okay, so great, thank you. Thanks for that quick participation. So yeah, you have to configure the timing, the answers. It's optional, but you can, you know, Kahoot has its automatic timing for how long each question will stay on the screen and give how long each Dharma School student will have. But you can change that. You can change the image, or you can have no image. I mean, you really could spend sometimes too much time, like, you know, finding the perfect image and, you know, putting a video into the question that's playing at the same time. And, you know, you really almost have to kind of be mindful of how much time it could take. But you could see that Kahoot's got some ways to help you. They have what's called a question bank now, where you can search for questions and answers that have already been done, you know, to plug it in faster, and you can always configure it or kind of customize it. And you saw that the main kinds of questions are quiz questions, true and false questions, or images as answers. However, there are poll questions and kind of slide spectrum, where are you on the spectrum questions, or doing a little puzzle or typing in, and those come with paying a little bit more. Those come with those pro or premium subscriptions. Okay, so I am going to now, yeah, I'm going to now show you how to host this over video. You can, you know, what many teachers are used to doing is doing this in their classroom, right? And the whole class is in there and everyone's, you know, having a lot of fun on a Chromebook or some other, you know, an iPad or something, and everyone's answering the questions and, you know, getting very excited. But you can play this online, and it is quite fun to do it too that way. So I'm going to play a video about that and then give you some tips. And then I'm going to show you actually how to kind of navigate around the Kahoot account and show you how easy it is to make your own game. And then we'll play a game. So again, this is a short video. Okay. So my quick tips are to write concise questions and answers. Kahoot controls that a little bit, but the students don't have, they're very engaged and excited, and you don't want to make the question and answers too long. It's hard to read. To be kind of prepared for that two-sided coin of engagement, they can get really excited. There's just something very built in about this, but you don't want it to become about the competition, to become over competitive. I can give you some advice about that. And from a Buddhist perspective, to really kind of figure out how to both celebrate those high scores, and to shift the focus, to about compassion and about Sangha and Dharma, and so there are some ways to do that. You could have them play in teams. You could have the students help to write the questions and then play a game, just ways to make it not so much about who wins or who gets the high score, because that is what Kahoot does, is keep track of everyone's score.
Excuse me, Stacy, there's
yes.
a question here.
Sure.
It says, when I've done this, students use their phones in the class. Would they need two devices so they could be on Zoom also?
Yes. So I don't think, I don't see why they would have to do that. Couldn't they just open a new tab? Am I wrong on that? And just play Kahoot and then come back to the Zoom. It can, I do understand your question. And yes, they could have two devices. That is very nice and a lovely, that's nice that someone has two devices. But if, most students just have one. And if they have one and it's a computer, they definitely, or an iPad, they could definitely just open a new tab and play Kahoot and then just go back to Zoom when you're kind of resuming your meeting.
Could you show us how to do that? Because I get the same reaction. The kids say you need two devices.
Yeah. I can show you what I mean. Yeah, let's see if, and maybe we could find out if that is not gonna work. I'm not sure. Thank you for saying that. Let's see what happens. Okay, so for those of you who have never done this before, but I'm hearing that a lot of people have because they have questions beyond this. Doing your first Kahoot is quite easy because when you have a Kahoot account, you can search for another person's Kahoot. They have a public catalog of Kahoots. And if you find one that is kind of in that area that is interesting to you, you can duplicate it very easily. You don't need that person's permission because they've made it public. And you can rename it. I urge you to rename it and to edit it, and to make it your own. I keep mentioning this word public. By keeping the visibility setting for everyone, then it allows other Dharma schools to find it. And that's what's really great. And then once you're done editing it, you click the green button that says done, and then you can either test it, play it, or share it. So, and once you do that, then you actually play it. So I am gonna go through these next slides that just kind of show you what a student sees. And we'll see how it goes. Let's see if we can actually do what I said, that we can actually just play. So the students would need to go to www.kahoot.it, okay, or kahoot.it. And they have to put in this PIN number. There's no other login. They don't, for kids who are not familiar with it, you can assure them, oh no, you don't need an account. You don't need to have your own Kahoot account. You just need to go to that kahoot.it and put in that PIN number. And then once they do that, then they can play the game. And so this is a Kahoot that I have made. And you can see here that, just like I said, the green button that says play is the one that you're going to hit if you want to play the game. The questions are in the middle of the screen here. The image that I wanted to show is on the right-hand side, and then the number of seconds that the students are getting to answer the question is down in the corner of each question. If I click on this right here that says show answers in the upper right hand corner, then it will expand out each question and actually show the answers that I've pre-programmed in to display. And on the right hand side, the red X mark are the incorrect answers and the green check mark is the correct answer. You can make questions that have more than one correct answer. You know, and so it allows you, Kahoot allows you to check mark more than one. And so once the student goes to kahoot.it, take a look at the left-hand screen here, and let's pretend that they are playing on a phone or an iPad. Then they need to enter that PIN number in that you're displaying on your big screen. In this case, 493637. So then the student's entering it into his or her or their device, hitting enter, and then they're in, and then they choose a nickname. This is one of the most exciting things for those of you who play Kahoot. I know that you've experienced this where your students love picking a name for themselves. You might have to put some guidelines down for that, but you can see that once I put in my name, Stacy, then it shows up on the teachers or hosts screen, and you'll just see all of your students populated. And then once you know that everyone's logged in, right? And how can I tell that? Because it says how many players are over in the left-hand corner right here. Then I can hit start over here on the right-hand corner. And then we'd actually play. If I answered this question, who is the founder of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, correct, then I'm gonna, you know, get a certain amount of points. It is also based on how quickly a student responds to. So that's the way Kahoot works. You can turn off the points. You know, you can just say, I'm not showing any points, and that's totally fine. And at the very end, it does do this podium with the levels of first, second, and third place, but you can stop the game at any time. So you don't have to end it at this podium if you don't want to. You can stop it beforehand and just say, you know, you guys were all awesome, you know, and you don't have to show this last part if you don't want to. Are there any questions right now? Okay, so let me show you what I mean by, let's see. So here's my Kahoot. Now I do have beyond, I have a premium account. I do pay for it a little bit every month. But I want to show you how easy it is to find a Kahoot. And I'm going to go to this tab that says Discover. And so I typed in Shinran Shonin. And you might think like, oh my gosh, she's not going to find anything. But here I type it in. I'm searching for it. And here's what you get. So you also get the one I just made because I did leave it public or for everyone to see so they could find that. But you can see that thanks to our youth, there are a lot of junior YBA Kahoots, which is really cool. And you know, Dharma family Kahoot activity. There's just, so there are things out there. You really can. And so let's just pick one. So if I picked this 63rd Junior YBA Convention Kahoot, right? And remember, now you could just play this one if you wanted to, but I certainly urge you to look through all the questions and answers, to look at the images, you know, to really vet it before you just put it out there for students to see, because there could be something that you know, is either outdated or has questionable content, you know, or something that you don't agree with, or maybe has inaccurate information. But what I'm going to do right now is show you how to duplicate it. So all I did, again, please take a look here, 3 dots up and up vertically, clicking on it, I'm duplicating it. I'm going to duplicate this Kahoot. Again, the person has let it be public, so there's no, you don't have to feel bad. It says duplicate of. I think that I'm going to rename this and I'm going to say our sample FDSTL Kahoot. I'm going to save it. And now I want to edit it. I'm going to click on the blue edit button that was in the lower right-hand corner. And now you can see how, you know, Kahoot is set up very well to do this idea of gamifying this information. So I can change this, you know, whatever. I can change this for how many years did, you know, I can change that. I can change the time, and I can say, oh my gosh, you gotta know this fast. You only get 10 seconds, whatever. I can make the points, change this to nothing, to 0. You can make it so that they can select more than one answer. I can make all of these correct or not. Of course, this one is the correct one. I can make the image reveal more slowly, all this kind of stuff. This is the question bank where you could try to look for other questions, just like a Google search. Let's see, and you can just keep, you know, going through, and I can delete a question by hitting the trash here and say, yeah, I really do want to delete that one. You can duplicate a question by clicking this and doubling it if you kind of want to do similar kinds of questions. You can see you can import slides or spreadsheets, I guess perhaps with this account, maybe not with the free account. Yeah, so there's just a lot of things you can do here. In the settings itself, I can change the title, I can put a description, I can change this image here so that it doesn't say Hawaii Federation of Junior YBAs anymore. You can do a lot of different things here. On purpose, I played that music in that video pretty loudly. Some people are very annoyed by Kahoot music. You can change it to a different style if I want disco. Reggae. And then you can hit done when you're ready. And then again, like I said, you can either test it, play it, or share it like that. So,
Stacy?
Yes.
A question came in the chat. How many times do you Kahoot per term so as not to overuse?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I guess it would depend on your students. I mean, I've been teaching online since March, you know, because I'm a middle school teacher. And, you know, I think that there is a danger of over Kahooting. I would say, you know, I would play Kahoot with my 7th grade history students maybe once or twice a month, and then maybe with my 8th grade students a little bit less frequently. But that's just me, and I'm all, you know, it just really depends. So that would be my input. Okay, so what I wanted to show you about how to.
Stacy, can I comment? So it also depends on the class. Some classes are really responsive to Kahoot or any of these things, and they'll ask for it. So, you know, for them, you might want to do a little more. Some classes, it doesn't work very well at all. It might have a novelty aspect of it. And so those you want to be more reserved. So it depends on the class and also what you're teaching too. Some topics are really, it's more visual, and it's really lends itself to these tools. So just play it by ear is what I would recommend.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mas. I think that's a much better answer. I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment just so I could show everybody. So what I'm hoping is that you can play the Kahoot that I made. And what you'll need to do is you'll need to go up to the, you know, the Zoom, that toolbar at the top where Brent was saying, you know, where the annotation tools usually are. And you need to exit the full screen, right? And if you exit the full screen,
then it'll just minimize the Zoom window a little bit, and you'll see the rest of your desktop, and you'll go, oh yeah, there's the rest of my desktop. And you could open a new tab and click on Kahoot.com, and I'll have to, let's see. That, I think this is the tricky part, is I guess giving you the code number. Does anybody have any, I don't know.
No, just put it in chat.
I'll just put it in the chat. Okay, I'll just put it in the chat, and let's see if.
You can also mention it too.
I'll just keep saying the number. Okay, I'll put it in the chat. So, okay, so let's play the Kahoot here. Okay, so we're ready to play this. Okay, so I'm gonna be giving you the quote classic mode, where we're just all playing in live time, synchronous, and the pin number is 507889. Okay, so let me put it in here. Everybody again. 5078889. Okay, so that is the Kahoot number, 507889. So please, again, exit the full screen of Zoom, open a new tab, go to kahoot.com, and enter in 507889. And we won't play the whole time. I'm just gonna start showing you how. So,
Stacy, it's Kahoot.it.
And again, the PIN number is 507889. And now there are 25 people logged in. And I'm going to share my screen so that you can see this. Okay, so you should see, again, you've exited your full screen, you've opened a new tab, you've gone to kahoot.it, and you've entered in 507889. So there are 34 people logged in, and if you don't want to play, that's fine, but you can watch it happen. But it is kind of cool to actually play, just so that you can see. Okay, so there are 42 people. And so for those of you who have never done this before, let's pretend that, oh no, actually I see this. Okay, so somebody has named themselves OOO. Ooh. If you as a teacher, you know, in general, our Dharma school classes are not so big that it's, but if it were a big group like this and you're kind of like, I don't really know who that is, I can cross out Oo's name by clicking on it and asking them to rename him, her, or themselves, okay? Same with like someone just saying I'm K, or someone saying I'm Yahoo, right? So those are those times, as a middle school teacher, I'm very used to that, of kids renaming themselves something a little obnoxious. Hey, Aaron, well done. Go Bears. Okay, so you can see personality comes out. It is amazing. Students have learned how to put in emojis, and it's kind of incredible how they can name themselves something really complex. Okay, so we have 45 people logged in, and shall I start? Okay. Oh, no, 46. Okay.
I can't figure out how to get there.
So there are 73 of us here. There are 48 people logged in. Unless the co-hosts speak up, I'm just gonna start playing.
Stacy, are people able to log in mid-game?
All right, let's begin. So I click on this start button in the on the right-hand side here.
Stacy, I think. Go ahead, Carl.
And by the way, if someone's late to the game, they can join. They just need to, you know, they just will miss some of the lessons. Some of the questions. Okay, so here are your choices. Is the founder go Shinshu Buddhism, Shinran Shonin, Hakushini, Lady Ishimi, or Amida Buddha? And you again down here at the bottom, notice how it tells you what the PIN number is if you are late to joining the game. The time has run out. And now you can see that 20 people answered with the correct answer, 2 people answered Lady Ishini, and 1 person said Amida Buddha. Okay, just to see how it goes. And let's say you've run out of time. And you're like, oh my gosh, Dharma school's over, you guys. You know, we could continue this next time. You can click here in the corner. It says end game in the lower right-hand corner. I'm gonna just do one more question so that you get the idea. And when you hit next, it does do this scoreboard. Again, but you could set it to no points and then, you know, it won't show it. Okay, so one more, just to see how that goes. What is Ho'onko? Okay, so we can see that the correct answer is that, you know, Shinran Shonin's Memorial Day. This is the time when, you know, as a teacher, you can use it at instructional time. You can kind of review, or, you know, if it looks like, oh my gosh, you know, half of you really struggled with this, you can talk about it. If I hit show media, it will show the picture. So if you had a really, really cool picture that actually went with Ho'onko, you can use it. Or if, like, say you were showing a map, you know, you could use that show media and get back to that map and really point out the point you were trying to make. Okay, and so if I end the game, I'm going to end the game because you can see it makes our podium. So, great job, Mary. Ellie. And Koichi and Nico, thank you for all that great effort. Okay.
Hey, Stacy?
Yes.
Can you check the chat? There's a couple of questions that came in on that one, or they're comments, and I don't know if you can address those.
Okay, so the answers do not show on my Kahoot screen.
Stacy, that question was for me in Mountain View. So I saw a red rectangle, blue rectangle, yellow rectangle, green rectangle, but with no answers.
Oh, yeah. No, that is very normal. You do have to look at the screen. So were you playing it on a computer or your phone?
Yes,
your
computer.
Yeah, so that actually then I am confused. Because usually
The same problem. I could not see questions. I could see these big blocks and I couldn't check anything. I see why the kids want to use 2 devices now.
Yeah, so then that must be the issue then, why they want to use 2 devices. Does anybody else have a workaround besides using 2 devices? Because I guess that is the issue, is that you can see, you just see the color blocks and you're not seeing the options.
I think you have to show the screen side by side.
By
So
side.
you have to fit them. So under view options, you have to exit full screen on the Zoom and fit it so that it's tiled next to your open window with Kahoot.it. So on the Zoom shared screen, you can see the questions and then you pick the color on the Kahoot.
Okay.
Right.
So does everybody understand? So for instance, I should do that too. Like, you know, I can make two windows here. Do you see how I did that? I just split my window and I'm gonna make two windows like this.
Right.
Okay, so that's what people are suggesting, is that you make two windows, put them side by side so that you can see the options and you can see which color block to push. And so that would be, you know, I mean, yeah, it has to be some tech teaching, but that's what you would have to do.
Stacy, I loaded it on my phone, which means I only got into the last question but I only saw the color blocks. But once you ended it, it actually replayed them so that I could answer them, and then I saw the whole thing on the phone. But on the first time on the phone, it did give me only the 4 color blocks like they were saying, but then it replayed the whole thing so that I guess the students can also practice again on their own.
Yes. Another thing that Kahoot does is you can play ghost mode. If you play ghost mode, so I'm just telling you this because some students will ask you maybe, you know, like, oh, can we play?
It means that when you replay a game that you've already played and you basically are kind of trying to beat your old score or your ghost score, you know, and so it'll look like you have all these different participants because it's the current player and their ghost, you know, the player they were before. So that's what ghost mode is. You know, Reverend Adams has a comment that he was able to play on Zoom entirely from his phone, but he had to toggle back and forth. And so I appreciate Darlene's comment because it's basically saying, you know, it's not, you are going to have to, if you want all your students to feel comfortable, you'll kind of have to make sure they've all got a setup that they understand how to do before you actually dive in. Yeah. The good news though is that so many of your students have played this already. So they've probably got their way of doing it and won't need too much instruction from you. So that is my presentation. So thank you very much. If there are any other questions, please let me know.
Stacy, there was one comment from Claire in Seattle. Says, wondering if you could demonstrate snapping 2 windows to each side, which you sort of did there, but I think it might be more of a Windows thing where you can actually move, you know,
yeah,
screens to either side and it sort of snaps together. So
sorry, yeah, I'm showing from a Mac. So
yeah.
If somebody else wants to show that using Windows, but Mac is pretty easy. I'm just, you know, I just dragged it to a new window or open a new window and then you just minimize it till they both fit in the screen.
Yeah, you can do that on Windows too, but
yeah.
there's a way to throw one to one side and one to another, and they snap. They show side by side.
I see. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Stacy. Okay, we're going to move on. So the next presenter is going to be Mas Nishimura. He's going to be talking about Poll Everywhere.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mas Nishimura, and I teach high school. I've been teaching for I have lost count, over 20 years for sure. I think I'm maybe 30 at San Jose. And I actually administer the BCA Dharma School website, Google website too. So that's for the lesson plans. And of course, this lesson is there if when you go up there. Let me show you my presentation. And then I'm going to stop the presentation in the middle because I'd like to do a demo. Here we go. Let me make it full screen. Oh, sorry, and I should present too. Let me make it not full screen so I can present. Okay, let me go to slideshow. There we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is Poll Everywhere. I've been using Poll Everywhere for about 5 years professionally. And I have used it in my classroom, but as Stacy mentioned earlier, I don't tend to use it very often, about at most 3 to 4 times a month. Yeah. So after this presentation, you will know how to sign up to Poll Everywhere, how to respond to a Poll Everywhere activity, that's their term for a poll, and then how to create a Poll Everywhere activity itself. I will give you certain times to stop for questions, answer your questions. This is the overview. I'm gonna go real quick. Sign up, it's free. It's a free system. You can pay for additional features, just like these other systems. Creating new activities. There are types of activities which actually kind of overlap what Kahoot does, but I will tell you when to use Kahoot and when to use Poll Everywhere, or how I like to use them. Examples, demo if time permits, and integrations to PowerPoint and Google Slide, and actually to other systems as well. And then I'll hopefully finish up a Q&A section. So real quick background, it's founded in 2007, based in San Francisco. It is actually considered the leading system. It started out from text messaging. So you can see that origin in lots of things they do. Now they do text messaging, web page, and smartphone apps. So signing up, I'm gonna go really quickly through this because you're all going to get this presentation, so you can just follow along. I won't, yeah. So basically, you go to the site, there's a sign up button. They get you big old blocks, and you basically, for signing up, you're going to be a presenter. And then fill in the form. You can actually sign up with Google if you have a Google account already. And then this will send you an email back, and then you just go and click on the confirm to get started. And that's it. You use that user ID to log in. So you're basically ready to start logging in and creating activities. Now, what I do is they have a notion of a group. So you create, once you log in, this is the page that you'll be in your web page. And you go to new group, and then under groups, you can actually click on actions. And the first one you have is add an activity. So that's it. After you hit add activity, you get these choices, and those are the things that you see at the top. The icons you see are the types, the activity types, and you can choose any one you like. If you sign up for a pro account, you get more, and you get a little bit more features there. I'll talk about the types here. Multiple choice is the classic. It's the one question with multiple answers, or single answer but multiple choices. Word cloud is what Poll Everywhere became famous for. It's actually useful for gauging responses, and I will demonstrate that as well. Q&A is a question and answer, except it allows other users to see the answers and basically do likes and dislikes to it. It also has the capability of having a clickable image. And finally, you have surveys, open-ended questions, and competitions. Surveys are just like the polls that you saw in Zoom, also like SurveyMonkey. For this type of question, I actually tend to use SurveyMonkey or Google Forms. Competitions, I do not use these in Poll Everywhere. Kahoots does it much more interactively and much better. So creating new activity. Once you hit the type, you fill in all these other forms. So fill in the title. Title is actually the question. So you can add any text you want to describe your question. And then for like this one, you have the additional rows are the actual choices. And there's actually a check mark that you can't see there very well, but that's what you use to mark the correct answer. Once you create an activity, you need to activate it. So you go back to the activities listing, and then you go click on the activate button for that corresponding activity. And this is what you get when you activate. You will get a list, and then it will tell, it gives a letter to each one of your options that you, the choices. And then you can actually further configure it. For example, if you have only one answer versus multiple answers, if you want timings, all of that can be configured in, and you can test it as well. So here's how to respond. Let's say you get this, and let's say you're multiple choice. And what the users see once you share, or you go to full screen here, is something like this. It's almost identical, except it's you get rid of the configure test and share portions. And the users can go to either to the web page, which is pollev.com, that the Mas Nishimura 232 is mine, or you can actually use the text messaging feature on your smartphone and basically text that same key, Mas Nishimura 232, to the phone number. And we'll do this later. So if you go to the web page, this is what you get. Basically a similar functionality as Kahoot, but no timings, no music, no nothing. But it does have the responses. And then if you go into your smartphone, you can actually do something like this. You basically, the green side is what you type in, you know, Mas Nishimura 232. And then you'll tell you that you've joined Mas Nishimura's session. And when you're done, you type leave. So you can actually stay in the session, and I can ask multiple activities, and you just respond. So this first response was B. And then at the very end of the whole session, you type leave. So I'm going to stop here a little bit. Are there any questions? Okay, let me go really quickly through the examples. This is the multiple choice with pictures. I recommend pictures, especially if you're going to use it with younger kids. Even for older kids, they like pictures too. But for younger kids, the pictures are actually what makes it really work. So what is your favorite color for a Buddhist flag? And you basically choose all the different colors. And here's what you get. And this is interactive. If this is live and I actually activated it, you will see as people respond, a bar for A, B, and C, D, and E move around. So that's what you'll do. Word cloud. This is what Poll Everywhere became famous for. It just asks what word best describes Shinran Shonin to you, and you get something like this. Of course, I actually put in all these words to mock this up, but it actually moves all these words, and you will see as things get more popular, they get bigger and they move around. So in fact, we'll be testing this one. Clickable image. This is something that, for example, what countries would you consider Buddhist? And you'll get a world map, and you can actually click anywhere inside of it. So I've already started, and I already clicked some of the places. Okay, here's the demo. So here it is. I'm going to stop sharing here, and I'm going to change to a different window here really quick. And I am going to go into, oh, sorry, not that one. And I'm going to, oh, sorry, I'm going to share my screen too. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to activate this, and you have your choice. You can actually go to pollenv.com/Mas Nishimura 232, or you can actually text 22333 with Mas Nishimura 232. So it's up to you. And you can I've already activated, so you can feel free to respond away. And you can respond multiple words. There's no okay, I'm going to try responding to. There we go. Yeah, see, you can see it switch around. So right now, this poll is set up to record everyone's names. Sometimes it doesn't really matter, especially if you're a smaller class. If you have kids that are not so, they're a little bit shyer, you can make it anonymous. It's all up to the settings. And I'm going to lock it now. Did everybody get a chance? It's okay? Okay, I hope that was good. And yeah, so I can show responses here.
Yet again, I had no luck. It said it was full and would not take more responses.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I've already deactivated it. So, okay, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to go back to my presentation. Sorry. Okay. Current slide. Okay. So working with presentations, you can actually put this presentation directly in your PowerPoint or Google Slide. Basically, the whole idea is there's an add-on functionality that's available in both of the softwares, and you download it, install it, and for PowerPoint, you install it directly inside PowerPoint, and then you just use it. You'll actually get a poll everywhere item that appears on your menu bar. So how to incorporate poll everywhere? This is really similar, in fact, almost identical to what Stacy mentioned. What you do is you have to have an objective. What are you trying to do with this lesson and this question? So you need that. And then you come up with a question that would get you to that objective. And then decide on the activity type that best reinforces it. And then, of course, the responses. So you want to be, depends on your group. Some groups you want it to be, all the responses are really easy and obvious. And you want to kind of boost them up. Sometimes you want to be really hard to differentiate kids and then get them to thinking. So higher up you go in grades, you might make it a little bit harder. So again, gauge it by your the student population. So recommendations, don't overuse, again, at most 3 polls in a session. I typically use maybe 2 at most, if I do. Use only when it will highlight some concept. Don't throw it in. The only exception to that is when I use it to continually gauge student reaction. So what I would do is I would pop up a word cloud and say, how am I doing? Or a heat bar and say, how am I doing? And just keep continually coming back and say, okay, I'm boring right now, or this is too hard, or whatever. And that I use that actually typically as one thing. And then I would maybe use another poll to just introduce the lesson, or trying to gauge where students are before class. So it's just a kind of a starter concept. Again, as I mentioned, for young children, use pictures and probably need parents' help to get the web page set up. And of course, like examples are what's your favorite food album and what's your favorite color of the Buddhist flag, as I mentioned earlier. Some resources, there are tons of YouTube videos by Poll Everywhere, the company itself, and then also the general public. There are educators and business folks that have quite a bit of YouTube videos. So there's no loss or lack of either one of those. Then the students, they have usually used Poll Everywhere as well as Kahoot. So there's a ton of information that they already know about. And then BCA Dharma School.org, I have a lesson plan for this that's actually there for this lesson. And also lesson plans that incorporate Poll Everywhere will be there as well. That takes me to the end. Questions? Any questions? Oh, yes.
There was a question in the chat. Did you make it so the poll was full, and why might this have happened? And one of the responses was that the free version might have a cap on responses. So
yeah,
you know
that's exactly right. There is a cap on number of responses, and I don't know what the cap is, but it's around 20, 30. It's a class basically. And this is a free version, and I greatly exceeded that once we get anywhere beyond 40s.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Anything else?
Can you put back to the other slide, the previous slide with the information? Yes, that one, thank you.
So everyone will get these slides. So there's no need to actually take notes per se.
Okay.
So Poll Everywhere, I have used in a large setting of international large setting. I think it was over 200 people. It was a corporate account, so they had no limitations. And we had people in, let's see, Beijing, Pune, India, and here in Minnesota, Minneapolis. And over 200 people, and it worked really well. And that we actually did a word cloud, and it was a huge word cloud, right? Over 300 terms. And it was really neat, but it was neat to see the coalescing. As people see, it starts coming together and words get larger. And it's a really neat way of kind of gaining consensus. Very quick too, relatively quick. I mean, try doing that on paper, it would be forever. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Just to let you know, I'm just monitoring the chat room, and there are tons of kudos coming in to Brent, Stacy, and Moss, stating that the information you provided was excellent, very helpful, functional. So I believe you're getting a lot of positive feedback on in the chat room on your presentations.
I have a question. I've never texted to do something. So what are you supposed to, when you text, do you put the number in and then text the Nishimura?
Yeah, that's it. So you
didn't do that, and I didn't know how. All right, that's all I need to know.
It's okay.
There's also a Poll Everywhere app you can use. So you don't have to use the texting at all. You just put the right username that they provide you in there, and you get right into your account. So that's the one we used in the Northwest Convention. Northwest, when they hosted the NCM last year. Anyway.
So I don't know if you could see this, but it's my phone. So I used my phone to respond to his poll. So I text exactly what he said, Mas Nishimura 232. And then it sent me a response saying that I could enter my responses. So I entered my responses. And then it did tell me the poll max was reached. So I knew I couldn't put any more in. So But it's real easy on the phone. Like Carl said, this is what we did at National Council, and it was really fun. They must not have had a max because they had a lot of responses, but
Yeah,
like
you could,
it's
yeah.
really cool when that happens. So.
Oh, for those of you who are in, type leave, L-E-A-V-E, so you can leave. Don't forget to leave.
Okay, thank you, Os. Any other questions? Let's see. I don't see anything else in the chat room.
Oh, one other thing. I have one other type of lesson I've done is have the kids come up with questions. Now, one other thing though is that if there is a bunch of questions, I don't like doing it in Poll Everywhere. I would probably move it to something else. So that's just me. But it's a neat exercise for having kids make up great questions to ask somebody else.
Absolutely. Okay. So if you can stop sharing.
Yep, I'll stop sharing.
And I don't see Reverend Harada on here. Judy, I don't know if you had seen his name pop up to admit him.
No, should I text him?
No, well, I don't know. He might still be in that endowment meeting. And Koichi might be listening to both, so I don't know if he can answer.
You want me to tell him?
Oh, no. Is your meeting still going on?
Oh, yeah, it's still going on.
It'll go on forever. So
Don't worry about it.
I could tell him.
Okay, well, okay, I have a few things to say before that. Let's see if he comes on. Okay, so anyway, so thank you very much to Brent, Stacy, and Moss. I think you did a great job, and I think there's a lot of useful information there. And like he mentioned, or the presenters mentioned, that I'm going to get their presentations, and I will make it available to you. Hopefully you were able to get the presentations from the last workshop, but they'll probably be put up the same way, where there's a link from the BCA Dharma School's lesson plan website to get to these. And we'll, of course,
yeah,
recording
on the bottom
session.
of the participant thing, so you should see it there.
What's that? Sorry. Oh, you're talking? Okay.
Do you have the participant panel up?
I do, yes.
Oh, Reverend Harada, they're waiting for you in the other session too.
Okay, Koichi, we can hear you. Anyway.
Anyway, I forgot to mute it.
There you go. There, that's okay. This is lots of fun on Zoom. Anyway, you know, this is just a continuation we started 3 weeks ago. We hope you continue. We hope you get a chance to collaborate with other teachers. You know, the large Dharma schools have a lot of teachers to collaborate with, but there's some Dharma schools that only have 1 or 2 teachers, and they don't have anybody to talk to. So hopefully you use those email lists and contact the other teachers. And for those who have large Dharma schools, hopefully you can provide some help. They really appreciate it. And since most of you, I asked the question when you're registering whether you wanted some additional sessions, and most of the people said yes. So throughout the year, we'll try to set up some sort of lesson plan sharing sessions, since this seems to be a good format here. And it'll probably be, for certain grades on certain days. Education committee is going to have to talk about this, so we'll let you know if that happens. Also want to announce that we are having announce again that we're going to have our Federation FDSTL conference on October 10th, and that'll be held virtually. The registration will be coming out soon, information, and we'll be sending that out. And I also want to thank, again, to the Education Committee and friends for putting this on, especially the background CB support that I got from Judy and Koichi Mizushima and other people. So I appreciate that. And let's see, Reverend Harada, are you on?
I haven't seen him yet.
Okay, well, so we will go ahead and close this session. So I'll call on Reverend Candace, if you're still on, to close out the session with Joshua.
Sure, I'm here. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I also too wanted to just thank our presenters, Brent, Stacy, and Moss, and of course the Education Committee, and all of the participants. And I feel with all the questions and everything that's been presented, this enthusiasm amongst our Dharma schools, so I'm really happy about that. So thank you again. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandavats. Namandavats. Namandavats.
Thank you, Reverend Candace. So actually, before you, well, you can leave because it's noon, and so you maybe need to get to lunch and stuff. But what I wanted to do is show a project that was being done through the CBE. Kiyo Masuda has been working on this along with a few other people. This is a book project, basically, that, Kiyo has been very good at using children's books to use as a basis for lesson plans. And this is sort of a sample lesson plan that you can do. So I was going to play it for you, but it is 18 minutes long. So if you need to leave, that's fine. But I was going to go ahead and play it. Let's see here. So we'll share this. Okay. So this is something that she put together, and we actually did a Zoom recording of this. And so here it is.
The world needs your voice. A message on responsibility as practicing Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. This summer, Reverend Dr. Duncan Buchan Williams, author of American Sutra, gave a virtual seminar for the Hompa Honganji Mission of Hawaii Buddhist Study Center. He spoke on the evolution of American Buddhism, primarily Jodo Shinshu, from Japan to the United States, including Hawaii. He discussed the negative stigma that Buddhism had on the Japanese immigrants who were striving to start a new life. When the Japanese arrived in Hawaii and the United States at the beginning of the 20th century, they suffered much discrimination. They looked different, and the majority of them were not Christians. They were Buddhists. They were not only foreign-looking, but practiced a religion that was foreign to the Western world. That was a long time ago. Today, thank goodness, Buddhism is no longer seen as an unfamiliar, strange religion. We can now say, yes, I'm Buddhist, with no fear of outward prejudice or suspicion. We go to temple on Sundays and participate in its many social activities. We unreservedly invite our non-Japanese friends, non-Buddhist friends, to join us. We are very, very fortunate today, thanks to our karmic past, to the countless people and events, causes and conditions that shape the freedom of choice and options available to us today. We can practice our faith and be who we are without feelings of inferiority. This, unfortunately, is not the case for all people. Every day we are overwhelmed with news of violence against Blacks. A few months ago, the hot topic was the inhumane treatment of children in the immigration centers. A few months before that, we were bombarded with reports of anti-Semitism and hateful actions towards Muslims. A Jewish daycare center was bombed. What is happening? It seems that all of a sudden there is an unleashing and an explosion of anger, intolerance, and hate. It is not abating. And the huge cloud that envelops all of this is the coronavirus pandemic and how to handle it. Should we mask? No. Yes. People have been killed fighting about this. What is happening? Gas. It is gas. Greed anger, and stupidity or ignorance. We are bombarded with the cruel and hateful acts of people full of gas. It has overcome our nation. What causes gas? It is loss of control of what we want. When we cannot have our way or get what we want, we get very upset. This gas is very difficult to control. It can erupt unexpectedly at any time. You've gotten angry, so mad that you felt like shouting and screaming. You're mad and blame your sister for getting you into trouble with your folks. Were you able to control these feelings? You're jealous of your friend who scored higher than you on the test. Were you able to control that feeling? No? Hard to? Gas had taken over. This is what is happening on a national scale. The haves and have-nots are taking their causes out on each other. Loss of control of their being has led to this desperate frustration, blame, jealousy, and anger towards each other. Their frustration is understandable, but this uncontrolled retaliation is frightening, destructive, and dangerous. It must stop. My initial reaction to all of this was anger. I felt anger towards those ignorant people who were attacking others, who were venting racist venom, superiority, entitlement, and hate. I then realized that they too feel that they have lost control of their being, that their beliefs were being attacked. I vehemently do not agree with their divisive beliefs, but my anger will not help to change their minds or get this gas under control. I felt so helpless. How can I, an ordinary individual, living a comfortable life in a safe neighborhood with a loving family, help to right the wrongness of the present situation? What can I do? What can we do? Practice. Practice wisdom and compassion. I am a link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. We are all bound together within Amida's golden chain of love. We are interdependent. It is important that I keep my link bright and strong, because what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. This is a very strong message to us to practice Amida's wisdom and compassion, that Amida is relying on us to be kind and gentle as we try to protect all who need our help. How do we do this? By thinking, saying, and doing things with empathy and unbiased judgment. How can we do that? We can say something. We may not be activists who are vocally assertive. We may not be comfortable in confrontive situations, but we can make our voices heard in our own way and contribute to righting this wrong. Here is a book that gives some suggestions. Say Something by Peter H. Reynolds. Peter Reynolds is a well-known writer-illustrator of children's books. His books and message have a common tone. They are positive and understanding, gently reminding us that we are okay just as we are. He wrote, quote, "Much of my work is designed to inspire all of us to navigate our true potential, to be brave, original, inspirational, inspired, and active." End quote. This book, Say Something, is not a book on the Dharma, but speaks to the universal reality and essence of a basic Buddhist understanding of interdependence and karma.
Hi, this is Peter Reynolds, and I am in my studio in Dedham, Massachusetts, not too far from Boston, and I wanted to reach out and read together with you. So let's get started. I am going to choose a book. It's not going to be the dot, although you might know the dot. And it won't be the word collector, but I wanted you to know that I love words. I love, love, love words. And it's not going to be You, which is my latest book, Be You. This is about how amazing human beings can be, right? We can be so many things, like being a reader, right? And being generous and sharing your stories with those around you. But today I wanted to share, say something. Where is it? There it is. Say something, right? The world needs your voice. Yes, yours. So hopefully this book will inspire you to share what you're thinking and feeling, what you're dreaming. The world needs your voice. Mine? Yes, yours. Go ahead, it doesn't need to be perfect, as long as it's from your heart. And you don't have to be loud, right? Powerful words can be a whisper. You can say something in so many ways. You certainly can use words. You can use action and creativity. If you see someone lonely, what do you think you could do? Right? You can make them unlonely, right? By sitting with them. You could say something by just being there with them. If you see an empty canvas, say something with your brush, right? That's what I love to do. I'm an artist, so I have my brush handy, so I like to say something with color. If you see an empty lot, say something by planting a seed and watching it grow. If you see someone being hurt, like this boy right here, say something by being brave. Hey, stop. Be nice to that kid. Let that kid go. Hey kid, come with me. Right? We'll plant a garden together. If you see something beautiful, you could say something with a poem. Painted meadow splashed with rainbows. If you have a brilliant idea, say something with confidence. Eureka! Scientists love saying eureka. It's one of their favorite words. If you want to show the world who you are, say something with style. Ta-da! And she's wearing her peace shirt. She's got a little button that says push forward. And she's a pretty creative, snappy dresser, don't you think? I think you can tell she's a pretty creative person. If you are angry, say something to help people understand. And this boy says, you made me feel invisible. I'm not really hurt. And this boy says, I'm really sorry. I didn't even see you standing there. Hang out with me. Maybe we could make some comic books or something together. If you see an injustice, say something peacefully. No more hurting people. Inspire others to do the same, right? There are lots of different ways, right? Can you see that? There are lots of different ways of saying love and peace. Sometimes you'll say something and nobody will be listening, but keep saying what's in your heart, and you will find somebody who listens. And see that little girl? She finally finds a little bird, one little bird, to listen to her words. Now, keep saying it. Right? That's the trick, right? Keep saying it and never stop. Keep saying it. You may be surprised to find the whole world listening. Check this out. Look at all those. Look at all those birds listening to what this girl has to say. If you are grateful for being alive, quietly say something to the stars, to the universe. Thank you. There she is atop the mountain, saying thank you. some people find it easier to say something than others, right? Some people think it and some people say it, but everybody has something to say, even that little bird. So when you're ready, you can help me with this one, okay? So when you're ready, say something. Your voice can inspire, heal, and transform. Your voice can change the world. Are you ready to say something? Peter Hamilton Reynolds, and that is me. And this page is for you. The last page is for you to say something. Of course, if you own the book, you can write in it. If it's a library book or a school book, you can make a copy of that page. I give you my permission. And you can fill it with what you are thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're dreaming. So share that with the world. Make this world a better place. Use kind words, kind actions, and your creativity. Make this world a more colorful place. And please consider me a friend on the journey. Anytime you want to reach out and hang out with me, right? You just have to open up one of my books and I will be there with you. So let's keep reading together, everybody. Share positive stories and be kind to each other, and we are going to change the world and make it a better place. Take care. Bye.
Yes, as Mr. Duncan says, we can peacefully make the world a better place with kind words and kind actions. This is so important right now. Black Lives Matter, as does the plight of the children in the immigration camps. Muslims are considered violent. Asians are blamed for the coronavirus outbreak. We must all do our part to help curb this tidal wave of hate and blame. We must consciously practice and share our understanding of Amida's wisdom and compassion. Suda for Solidarity. This grassroots organization's goal was to take 125,000 paper cranes to Washington, D.C. to string on the gates of the White House. This goal was met because across the country, hundreds and thousands of ordinary people like you and me folded cranes. People write to their congressmen, march, donate money, vote, volunteer, make and display support posters. There are so many ways to support the good causes. It is important to let people know you care and you are doing something about it. Together, we can make a difference. If you see injustice, say something peacefully. No more hurting people. Peace. Ministers are doing their part in turning the tide of gas. Reverend Ron Kobata of San Francisco Buddhist Temple conducts services at peaceful rallies and immigration centers. Buddhist ministers participate in a march of silence. Their support is also conveyed through their speaking and writing. Say something with your brush. Meg is an artist friend. They express their wisdom and compassion through their art and donate its proceeds to various causes. Meg's work can be found at Megamiko on Etsy.com. If you are grateful for being alive, quietly say something to the stars, to the universe. Namo Amida Butsu. Remember, we are all a link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. We must keep each link bright and strong, our own as well as that of others, so we can all attain perfect peace. Let's do our part to practice wisdom and compassion to strengthen our golden chain of love. Namo Amida Butsu.
Okay, thank you. Kim Masuda put that together. There were some questions about that being available. We will actually still need to make a few tweaks to it, and we will make it available eventually. It'll probably be off the lesson plan website. She's working on other things as well. And actually, if you have topics for her, she would entertain suggestions. So yes, thank you very much, Kyo. And thank you all for sticking around. And if that's it, I will end the session. Thank you very much for attending.